friends. I'm your host, Dr. Dave Layton, and thank you for joining me in our journey to hope. It is my desire through this podcast to bring you information about how to discover, sustain, or perhaps regain hope. Within this episode, I'll be speaking with Colton Edwards of Enhabit Home Health and Hospice here in Montgomery, Alabama. And I'm also speaking with Dr. Sharon Barnes. She's the chaplain for Enhabit. Now, I recently met Colton at the Montgomery Cancer Center in Prattville, Alabama. Colton was presenting information about their services and our staff. Oh, by the way, Colton, I noticed that you brought donuts that morning, and I used to tell people when I worked in business and industry, if you want to draw a crowd, bring food.
That's it.
So I appreciated that you did that. All right. So anyway, I saw that Colton was connected with Enhabit, and I thought, I think I'll talk to him about being a guest. And then he invited you.
Yes, sir.
And that was great. Okay. Well, I did invite Colton to tell us about the efforts of Enhabit Hospice and how it helps others in their journey to hope. Hello, Colton, and hello, Sharon.
Great day, sir.
Thank you.
I'm very happy to have you too, really. I, as we were talking earlier, have met some wonderful people through the podcast. I've made a lot of friends, and it's just great to do it. All right. I really appreciate you guys agreeing to be on the show. And I'd like to begin by you telling the audience a little bit about yourselves. However y'all want to do that.
Sure. Well, as you shared, my name is Dr. Sharon Barnes. I came on board with Enhabit May of last year as their chaplain, and I am there to service the patients, their families, as well as our team, our staff. We do a combination of things from, of course, Bible study, prayer, and providing pastoral presence, but we also provide that active listening for the caregivers and just that self-assurance to them too, And
it's amazing, as a volunteer at the Cancer Center, just sitting and listening.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful thing to do.
Being present.
Yeah.
Just being present.
Mm-hmm.
So I get to do that. I feel that I have the greatest job in the world.
Okay.
I get to tell people about Jesus every single day. So that's what I do.
Okay. Colton.
Yes. So I am an area manager with Enhabit Hospice. Cover most of the Montgomery, Prattville, Millbrook, and Selma area. But I am from Huntsville. I went to Huntington College, played lacrosse there, and my wife's family is from here. So I was in a couple other cities from Huntsville to Nashville, and we came back here and been mostly in the sales and marketing, careers. And I started a month after Sharon did in June of 2024. And I'm so glad they brought me aboard. And I mostly, in the beginning stages of when a referral comes over and helps the onboarding process with the family and the physician or the facility, and help them get everything they need from just documentation, clinicals, DME, and then the nurses kind of take it from there.
I first heard about hospice when I was very early in my master's education program. My master's is in adult learning, and we were studying all the different kinds of adult learning opportunities out there, just all kinds of different things. And we had a presenter come in and from a hospice organization, I don't recall which one, but it was fascinating to me because that was the first time I'd actually even heard of hospice, and she told a little bit about what it was, and I have come to learn more and more about what it is, and we're going to talk about that as we go into this, because it's important that people understand what hospice is and the services it provides. Just so very important, and I've had since then opportunities to interact with folks within the hospice organizations with particular personal application to some very dear friends and family, things like that. So that tuned me in, and it just opened up a whole new world. Okay, well, as I was preparing my thoughts about this. So I'm glad we finally got together. we hit and miss. But it was, I went out to the webpage and looked over some things, and the banner on it said, "Building communities that care together." And I really liked that, because I would suspect that when somebody is in a situation where hospice is getting called in, they can't help but feel a little bit like, I'm in this by myself.
Yeah.
Or the family member, I guess, feels more like they're by themselves, and we don't want them to do that. I'm passionate about letting people know that no one walks alone.
Absolutely.
That was said to me when the first day I received outpatient care here at the Montgomery Cancer Center. The volunteer, little bitty lady, and it turned out it was her first day working as a volunteer, short little lady.
Wow.
And I was on a walker, couldn't even stand up, had to help me stand up on the scales, I was so weak, that kind of thing. And so she comes there and she says, Mr. Dave, your nurse is ready. I'm going to take you back there. And so I'm on my walker and I'm tottering around. She's got her arm around me and she's about half my height. And anyway, I told her, I says, you're making me feel like I'm your only patient. And she says, well, to me, you are.
Yeah.
And then she says, no one walks alone.
That's right.
Oh, my goodness. I already had that in my mind as I was writing the book on hope. That was kind of a subtitle. And then when she said that to me, it's like that was the bookend. Okay.
Yeah.
By the way, she got a whole paragraph in the book.
Wow.
She was a very precious lady. So anyway, that's what I'm just passionate about. And I let our patients know no one walks alone.
Yeah.
I have a badge that I wear on my smock that says no one walks alone. So anyway, I talk about that aspect of it. No one walks alone from the idea of being a hospice provider.
Yeah.
And I ran my mouth way too long.
No, you're fine.
You were refreshing to us. You really are.
No, absolutely. And, really kind of going off no one walks alone, it's from the beginning, even to the end. And in my opinion, there is no end because we're always going to be there for the patient and their family. And really what I mean by that is, no matter where, if you're at home, wherever you call home, or you're in a facility, being only doing this for about 7 or 8 months, you're not just a statistic.
Yeah.
You really are truly so cared for. And this is nothing against a hospital, but when you are home or when you are at a facility where you have another set of eyes, it's just, whether it's your nurse, your aide that can help you with bathing, with feeding, your chaplain services, any sort of your, other sources that can come in and just simply help you, is just really amazing. And also, we're one of the few companies that we start bereavement services from the get-go. A lot of them wait until after a patient or the family of
Okay,
loved
what
one.
kind of services again?
Behavioral.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, bereavement source,
okay.
and we start that from the beginning. We don't wait until the end.
Okay.
And most say, hey, we have a minimum of 13 months that we have to be there. There is no expiration date on that. We are always going to be there, whether it's a tuck and call, a simple letter in the mail, months and years after, to just always know and remember that, we took care of your loved one.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. And I'll add an addendum to that by simply saying, when you take into consideration that even though we are there, the staff, as he shared, the sales team is there, the aide is there, the chaplain's there, the social worker is there, but we go in and we service the whole family and not just the patient. Of course, our undivided attention initially and throughout the process is the patient, but there are times when I go in for a chaplain's visit and I pull that wife to the side and I sit her on the porch and I just talk with her, or I'll listen to her.
Okay.
And sometimes that leads to laughter, sometimes that leads to tears, sometimes, but you give them that space, because even though we're there ultimately 24 hours hours a day, that caregiver is the person that's there all the time. And so we want to be able to service them, service the kids, you know what I mean?
I
so
do.
That's the part that I love about Enhabit.
One of the other things I'm passionate about are caregivers. I have learned that through my journey. And today, as I'm working with a patient at the cancer center, I love on that caregiver big time. When I was going through treatment, it was in the COVID years, and we couldn't have a caregiver back into the treatment area with the patient simply because of their immune system being compromised, all those things. And so we take care of that caregiver. A lot of us are thrust into that caregiving situation with no preparation.
Absolutely.
So it's a deer in the headlights. So what you're talking about is so critical, to let that family know you are not alone.
Absolutely.
They're there for them. That's great. All right. I saw on the website that you provide information that's important to folks, especially elderly. Again, some of them are dealing with this for the first time in their life, and none of us ever think, okay, I'm going to deal with this, or I'm going to have to deal with this. It comes upon us. And by the way, I know you're going to talk about it. It's not just end of life issues that hospice takes care of, and I learned that as well. So comment a little bit about that, please, this idea of elderly care, helping them perhaps with other health issues that they contributing to whatever the situation is.
So this month specifically, we are targeting broken heart syndrome. And what that is, it's like the person that has either lost someone or they're preparing to lose someone. They start to exemplify symptoms that mirror or echo a heart attack. They may experience shortness of breath, heart palpitations, and things like that. And they, don't really know what to do about that. So what we do, we go in and we nurse that person. We give that person presence. We give that person, recreate that space that they felt and that they loved. And we stroll down memory lane with our patients. I love sitting with patients and asking them, especially if it's a husband and a wife and they've been married for so many years, I love to say, okay, Mr. Castanova, how'd you sleep her off her feet? And he would say, oh, she was talking to this person and that person. I knew I was the one. And I asked her and I said, now, how did he win your heart? And you pull them into a space of joy, a space of reminiscing, a space of happy memories. And then I call this stage settling the books, because transitioning, especially when you're dealing with believers, is exiting from labor to reward. So I sit with them and I say, okay, what was your legacy? What do you want people to know after the fact? And that kind of makes the conversation about the end of the life and all of that more palatable. So I think that is something that we kind of offer that's kind of different than other people, but also we facilitate confessionals. We facilitate, I had a patient once that hadn't spoken to her son in 15 years. And it was really weighing on her. And you know that a patient will tell you what's really on their heart if you just listen. They'll start telling you the things like, I need to do this. I need to get this right. I need to fix this. And it can go back 15, 20 years when they were in good health and in a great frame of mind. And so we staged a confessional and a foot washing, actually, where we allow for reconciliation and forgiveness. So those are the things that we offer to elderly people, that kind of still make them feel in control. And I love that you gave the example about the lady walking with you. Even though you felt weak, she didn't make you feel inadequate.
Jane became my hero.
Yeah.
She really did. And now we get to work together as volunteers on occasion. I love that. But anyway,
Isn't that awesome?
Yeah.
There are a couple of people that we work with that are pastors. And so there are some days that we go in and I say, okay, Pastor so-and-so, what's the word for today? And I sit back and I let them minister to me. Because you keep them in that seat of, you're not just fading out of this. You're still important. I know that word is in you. I want to hear you. You talk to me. And I sit and I listen and I let them do ministry to me. So.
Fun stuff.
Yes, sir.
Serious stuff. But, if you've got the passion for it, there's so many different ways that we can offer that opportunity to folks. And again, listening to them, as you've said, is so important. We touched on a little bit. Again, I've come to learn from association with hospice folks and with caregivers, medical folks or others, family and friends, that hospice care is so much more. Mm-hmm. It's not just, oh no, they called in hospice, old brother or sister so-and-so, that's it.
The end.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily.
And so kind of explain to our audience what hospice does, both to the patient or for the patient, as well as for the caregivers, family members, folks like that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I'm glad you mentioned that because it can be such a scary word.
Indeed.
Yeah.
A misconception.
Yes.
Right? And that's not always the case. I know that most of the research that you could go on Google and it may say that, but a lot of our patients, and they have, especially in the past, can come off hospice.
That's right.
They can get better.
Yeah.
That's right.
And that is such a wonderful thing, right?
Somebody told me that was graduating from hospice. I thought, okay.
Right. Exactly. Now, every patient's situation is different and their diagnosis can be different, but there is no expiration date on hospice, right? So you get a much, and we firmly believe that, in wherever you call home, whether it's a facility, whether it's a hospital, whether it is your own home, in symptom management, pain management, we want to make sure that the patient is as comfortable as possible and provided the best possible resources, not only for the patient, but for the family. And I had kind of touched on it just a little bit before. We have a disciplinary team, right? Mm-hmm. It's not just a hospice nurse, but an aide, social services, and chaplain services. Mm-hmm. And as the family, you are able to accept all of those. Some of them, it's completely up to you. Depending where you are, maybe you don't have a physician. That patient does have a primary care physician. We also have medical directors that the family can choose as well to use and this is all going to be included in your services. Most insurances are going to fully cover it, what even Medicaid, Alabama Medicaid, your commercial, your Medicare, and all hospice services, as long as we run that insurance through, is going to be covered. From those visits, from your DME equipment is what we call it. So that can include anything from a hospital bed, a bedside table, a walker, wheelchair, a Hoyer lift, a shower chair. All that's going to be included. The family never pays for a daily cost. And really at the end of the day, we take care of the pickup, we take care of the delivery, and, heaven forbid, the patient does pass, like I said, to those bereavement services
on
as
top
well.
Of everything that family or that person is dealing with, you don't want the dollar signs to keep them from what they need.
Exactly.
So, and it's a peace of mind. Not only that, but any sort of medication that's related to the patient's diagnosis. Mm-hmm. And like I said, some may be asking, well, how often do we come? Obviously, that's going to typically vary as well.
Sure.
Typically, we start 2 or 3 days a week when a patient first comes on to service, but that can easily increase to 5 visits, daily visits if a patient starts.
You're not necessarily providing nursing care. You might be arranging for nursing care, in-home nursing care, things like that. Am I understanding that correctly?
Well, yeah. So, I include nursing care, whether it's going to be from your nurse, help for your aide, helping with feeding, bathing, chaplain services that come. So it could be, and we schedule with the family on when we're going to come and how often that we come each week, based off our goals of care conversation that we have with the family. Sometimes
folks may not know, for example, me, it's a good thing my wife helps me figure out my medications. When I was going through cancer treatment with the chemo, put the pills together and I'd say, sweetheart, I need you to check these because I was having trouble counting to 4 2 times in a row, things like that. So you might have to train somebody or educate them on whatever it may be. Providing that care. And absolutely, when especially a nurse is not there or can't be there right away, our nursing staff does an absolute
just
Incredible
wonderful job on help
Absolutely.
educating the family member or caregiver when in the middle of the night, if patient's in pain, hey, this, how much dosage of this can I give, or how do you administer this?
Yeah.
And they do a great job to help the family on that.
Well, it's a challenging time of life for so many people. Again, and hopefully they will graduate from it, but sometimes in reality, that they are at that end of life process that they have to go through. Okay. It seems odd to somebody perhaps that we're talking about hope with a hospice situation, but again, we want folks to understand all that you do. The focus on this podcast is about helping folks discover, sustain, or regain hope. I clearly understand how hospice is a part of that, but some folks may not. So I'd like you to talk to that a little bit, how you support the concept of hope.
Well, I would have to say in our daily visits with our patients, my first initial evaluation visit, I come in and the first 2 weeks I'm building rapport. I want to get to know you. I want to get to know what you believe.
Okay.
I want to get to know what is a core value or core belief for your family. Is there certain things that you want me to adhere to or to refrain from stepping over into?
Okay.
Once I have that, I build what's called a plan of care. And that's something as simple as if I have a patient that's a retired military person or something, and maybe they're not so keen on Bible per se not because they don't want it, but they've just not been introduced to it. Okay. So what I'll do with that plan of care is I'll go in and I'll ask, well, what did you do in the military? How did you serve? Where did you serve? And once I get to know that, I'll come in just like we're doing right now, and I'll position it like a conversation, and I'll say, how would you respond, Lieutenant, for lack of a better word, how would you respond if you were in a situation where someone that was in leadership with you, they had a situation and they just did not use integrity with another person in the military's wife? How would you respond to that? And then that gets them talking. And then I'll say, I heard about a situation where this happened and this particular person did not use integrity with the soldier's wife. And then I'm having a conversation with him, and he doesn't know that I'm talking about David and Bathsheba, and I'm talking about Uriah. Do you see what I'm saying? Okay. I've made it to where we are dealing with it scripturally, but at the same time, we are making that person comfortable. So I think that for the most part, I go in and I kind of feel it out to see where they are. And then I try to take where you are and I try to lay out a plan. Well, we may study heroes of the Bible. We may study war people. We may study a particular trait or characteristic that you think is noble and honorable and things of that nature. Okay. So that's how I do that.
Okay. And as you get that person talking, you're learning about that person and
yes.
Some of those, let's see, what did we used to call that? Therapeutic communication. Yes. That's the word I was looking for. Okay, great.
Yes.
Great. Okay. Do you want to add anything to that, Colton?
No, I mean, really just, I'd say the only thing that I would, add to it is, kind of back to the no one walks alone, we're always going to be there for them. Mm-hmm. And just having hope, having just, those memories when we do come, mm-hmm. having those memories when we do call a couple months later and we do send that letter in the mail, someone that, my mother, for example, was just not just another patient. She was truly someone that they cared for and, valued, and they remember her because mm-hmm. I get constant reminders from Enhabit. So.
Okay, great. All right. Well, I noticed you guys are working out of the Montgomery area, mm-hmm. but I noticed on the webpage that it's in several different places.
Yes.
Well, how does someone go about, they're in a situation and they're saying, somebody told me I need to call in not necessarily Enhabit, but call in hospice. Maybe the doctor pulled the care provider aside and said, you might want to call hospice to come in, or a nurse might have said that or something. So how do you go about getting a hold of you guys? Do I just go out and do a Google search, or what do I do?
Yeah, well, absolutely. So that is one way to answer your question. But and as you looked from the map based on our website, we're not just in Montgomery, right? We're in 34 states.
Yeah.
We're all over. We have multiple sister branches, if you will, especially in this area, whether it's down in Greenville, down in Troy, Clanton, Alexander City, Auburn, so on and so forth. But, and really to answer, anyone can make their referral, if you will. A family member can, a primary care physician, a nurse, a sister. Anyone can call and...
Hey, it might be a neighbor who said,
exactly.
I have a friend who went through this, and Enhabit was... And you might want to get with them. Okay.
And to what you just said, so much of it is word of mouth, right? Because at the end of the day, family, they always have the right to choose, and they should have the right to choose on what company or who they want to go with, because there's not just us, there's of course other companies out there. So once family member basically contacts or gets in touch with that physician, and then therefore goes to the office, that's where someone at the office could reach out to one of us, or me, for example, as an area manager, or maybe they reach out to us right away, or a family member just simply talks to you. I've had that happen before. Sure. Where and she had documentation that I needed already from the facility, for example, of where her loved one was at, and you kind of just go from there. So it's not just us, family and neighbor, and someone who went through that. It can be anyone, but word of mouth is a huge resource, I think, especially when it comes to choosing Enhabit.
Yeah, and in the introduction part on this podcast episode, I'll include the contact information that they can get a hold of and everything, because I want folks to say, okay, well, that was great. What do I do now? So that's important. Okay.
Absolutely.
Great.
Can I share something?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
We're getting into these assisted living facilities. We are hosting different events. We have done harvest festivals. We've done, in fact, funny story, true story, Colton and I.
Oh, no.
Okay.
We both came in like within maybe 2 or 3 weeks of each other on the job. And so I was spending some time with the father, and I asked my boss, I said, would it be okay if we reached out to some local churches to ask if we could just come, on a night at Bible study and just kind of present to them all of the resources that we have? Because a lot of times people don't know what resources are available. And they okayed it. And we had, some meetings where we went to a couple of churches, and it was a group of us. But the first time Colton and I went out, we went to a local church in Montgomery. And we just we got up there and we answered questions and we laughed. It was so much fun, but people were so enlightened. So I wanted to say that we're getting out into the community. We go to the different, assisted livings, memory cares, churches, just so they'll know, hey, we're here, we want to help, we want to serve.
Yeah, great.
And just to add on to that, I do remember that. Oh wow, that was quite some time. But not only do we do marketing events like that, but we love to be able to interact with the residents, especially when they're at facilities. So we do fun, just activities.
Yes.
It could be anything from the very first thing I ever did was a tea party at a memory care in Montgomery, or to even just simply help bingo, bring breakfast,
ice cream
penny
socials.
Auctions.
Yeah.
And I've really noticed they love ice cream or anything sweet. You bring something sweet, most of the residents will come out there and gobble it up. So,
Absolutely.
but it's just so fun to bring them out. And kind of get to know more of the residents, whether they're on a service or not, just to be able to learn about them, ask them questions. And that's something I personally really enjoy doing.
Okay.
A few, at least a few times a month that we're able to at whatever facility it may be.
That's great. It is about getting out and meeting folks and seeing how you can help. I'm not so sure it would be good for you guys to come over to the Cancer Center and wander up and down the hallway. But I appreciated that you were there speaking with our staff, because they would be the ones who would talk to a caregiver about that. So that was important. I was glad to see that. And we do have information out for patients.
Yes.
I'm thrilled to say that the majority of our patients actually get to ring the bell or are able to recover to a level.
Oh yeah, that's great.
We had a bell ringing last week. We make a big deal out of it.
That is
big stuff. I remember my bell ringing.
Yeah.
It was big stuff. Okay. Anything else? I don't want to cut you off. So anything else y'all want to share?
I would just share that we as we stated before, we service the community and their families, but we also serve, I call them the watchmen on the wall.
Okay.
We have what's called a check-in at least once a month, where I'll reach out and say, hey, how are you doing?
Mm-hmm.
No, not how are you performing, how are you doing?
Mm-hmm.
And so the people that are actually performing these tasks and duties and serving, they get checked in and checked on too. Mm-hmm. So it's a wholeness. I think Enhabit is a well-oiled machine. It's a wholeness all the way around. So those that come to see you and take care of you, they're being sought and seen and taken care of as well.
There are so many ways. I repeat myself to my listeners. They'll know they've heard this. I have said to folks so many times, the best way that you're going to help somebody discover, sustain, or regain hope is to get out of yourself.
Absolutely.
What can I do for that somebody?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then you take the focus off of woe is me, and you're helping somebody. And you use the word legacy. Imagine somebody saying, that person was struggling, and yet they asked me how I was doing.
Yeah.
And they looked to help me. Wow, that makes an impact.
Absolutely.
And so I tell people, you want to start building hope, get out of yourself.
Absolutely.
What can I do for someone else? I have enjoyed talking with y'all. Thank you.
Likewise.
Thanks for being guests.
Thank you so much.
You've given me your time, which is such a precious gift.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for that. I do appreciate it. Okay, well, let me wrap up. Well, friends, thank you for joining Colton and Sharon and I together. We are journeying to hope.
Absolutely.
I truly hope that we have encouraged you to discover, sustain, or regain hope through this effort. I invite you to contact me if you have any questions or comments, or you wish to share with me something you've experienced in your journey to hope. My email is info@ourjourneytohope.com. That's info@ourjourneytohope.com. And please share this podcast with someone whose hope is being challenged. I look forward to sharing more with you soon. Again, I'm Dr. Dave Layton, and thank you for listening. And until our next episode, remember, we give all glory to God our Father.